The Truck Series. What a show that was. I mean, what a show. It was it's fucking terrible. I don't even know how else to put it. I mean, it was just one of those things where, hey, are you hitting a button every time I cuss?
Yeah.
Is it a marker button?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's good observation by you. But if you
do it again.
But if you cuss like close to each other, I'm not gonna like try to separate it. I've been missing a few lately, so I'm trying to be more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we know.
Well, I've all right. I know my mom's listening. I got to back her down. Okay. It was just not good. It wasn't a good look, and obviously it's kind of old news now, and people kind of forget about it. But man, what a terrible precedent that set. Just for how to race for a championship and whatnot. Just generally speaking, just how guys drove each other anyway. I mean, I don't know why they thought that, well, it's the last race, so I can just, grind all my axes right here in this race. Like a lot of the wrecks weren't even some championship contender guys that are going for it. They're just a part-time guy wrecking a full-time guy, or a full-time guy wrecking a part-time guy. It was just, I just don't get it. They just lost their brains, and maybe they watched the Xfinity race from the previous week and saw that it was okay, and now are doing this on the regular. So yeah, just not a good look. I worry. I worry about the long-term stuff of when you do nothing about it, and you saw my tweet on X, just basically saying, this is what happens when you don't have rules or officiating, and it's, you get a messy product. And so I definitely stand by that, because I believe in the long term, you're not gaining any new fans by allowing that to happen. I believe, this is my opinion, that you take the casuals that watch it and say, this isn't a real sport. Like, they just knock each other out of their way. They just wreck each other. It's like a demo derby. I can watch that on Saturday night at my local track. Like, we're supposed to be professionals, right? So it just, in my opinion, is a bad look. And if you want to sit at the adults' table for dinner, you have to act like an adult. And none of them acted like an adult. And I saw where one of the owners is like, I wouldn't hire any of those guys. I agree.
I mean, is the problem though really no rules or no officiating? Like, is that really the answer? Isn't
Yes.
this come down to the people?
I believe so, because
racing the cars.
Yeah. So to me, it's the same as the restart zone, right? We said, hey, this is getting out of hand. And so what NASCAR did is then they said, okay, we'll get involved. So when they saw some bad restarts and guys laying back, they then called it. Well, I looked at Phoenix, and the field is bunched up, right? I mean, Phoenix is a different racetrack anyway. The runs are a little different, but it only takes a couple calls for them to say, you know what, we're not going to put up with this circus. You're not going to just keep sending us under caution every 10 seconds. Like, that's not good for us. To make a call and say, that was deliberate. We watched you not only hit the person, but then gas up and keep going. Like, never give the person. You don't have to call the racing incidences. And someone even mentioned, do you call, like, for an instance, do you call the Carson Hocevar and Corey Heimrich? Right. No, that was a racing incident. However, what we saw is bad driving on restarts where people jammed it in, ran into someone's bumper, and then just kept driving until they spun them out. Or the person who ran directly into, I think it was the 25 truck, just deliberately took them out into turn 3. Like, that is deliberate, and it's just not a good look. So I think that it just takes you to make one deliberate call. There's going to be 10 of these instances at the Clash. They could use the Clash as an example to say, okay, if this gets out of hand, Like the Clash keeps getting more and more like that truck race in Phoenix. Every time we go there, it gets more and more like it, where people just are accepting of, all right, I'm going to power drive you into the car in front of you, and that guy will get either wrecked or spun, and I'll move up a spot. Like, that's what mentality is going on right now. You got to stop it. If you stop it once or twice, you'll have the racing that we're supposed to see.
I mean, can't you just have like to me, this is just all a problem with the drivers in the truck series. Like, you don't have this issue on Saturday, and you don't
Because they have no
issue
discipline.
Right. So to me, then this is way bigger than just creating a couple rules for the children's table. Like, this is the problem with the people at the table.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying, Jared. I don't know where the confusion is.
Okay, but I'm saying is that you have 3 tables, and one table is acting up all the time. Instead of creating rules just for that table,
It's not just that series. We saw it in Xfinity, same thing last week.
I mean, the truck series,
and then the Cup. I just mentioned that it's gonna happen in the Clash unless the adult, which is NASCAR, I'm calling them the adult, says to the children, no, that's not how you're supposed to do this. We're a professional stock car series. Act accordingly.
Right. I just feel like this truck race on whatever it was, Friday, is way different than what we're going to see at the Clash. It's way more egregious.
Travis, tell him. No f***ing way.
It was a mess this past year. An absolute
Everyone
mess.
just kept piling into each other
understand,
until
but
someone spun.
But this truck race was way different, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, you got a bunch of guys racing for the championship, and you've got 6 cautions at the end. It wasn't 6, but I'm just throwing the number out there. And you've got one with 3 laps to go is Corey Heim, paying back Carson Hocevar with 3 to go. That alters the ending of the truck race. Like, that's just way different than the Clash. The circumstances are just completely different.
What about the Xfinity the week before? I mean, it was never ending. It's the same thing. It's somebody in 6th was mad that somebody in 4th bumped them 30 laps ago to just plow into them on a restart and wreck them.
I just feel like you're opening up a can of worms by having to make calls on all these things.
It's not going to be a regular occurrence, because when the driver understands the repercussions is I have to go to the back and my race is over, they will stop it. It is self-policing in that way. And instead, the old Bill France way, oh, well, it will self-police itself. That's
right.
What's happening out there. Someone is bumping someone, and then someone's taking it to the next level and wrecking the shit out of them. That's what's going on the track. That's self-policing. That's what's going on. These guys aren't doing it for no reason. It's because that person may have ran them slightly up the track a lap before. So they're just crashing them.
But what about when the correct call isn't made? Like, what happens when...
It needs to be blatant and obvious. I don't understand. There's many instances where it is blatant and obvious. Those are the ones that you make the call on.
Okay.
Okay. It's a ball and strike, Jared, just like anything else.
I get it. I just feel like the majority of those are coming from guys mid-pack anyway, where the punishment
so you're
isn't going to
saying,
be, it's just not going to change anything. I don't know.
I mean, the Cars Tour, they can officiate it. Do you think they have the infrastructure NASCAR does? No. Okay, well they're putting blatant wrecks to the back.
I will say, to Jared's defense, I think there will be. You say it's balls and strike. Well, how many times is a ball called a strike? Like, there's going to be some incidents. So then, how do you deal with that?
I feel like you're solving a problem, but you're potentially creating another problem.
I don't disagree. There's a cause and effect for everything, but missing a call versus not doing anything is worse for the overall sport in the long run. This is not a joke of a series. Like, we are the top 3 series in motorsports in the U.S. Officiate it accordingly. I don't understand why that's so hard. They used to park Dale Earnhardt for a lap or 2 laps when he blatantly wrecked someone. That's been around for a long time. And then what happened is NASCAR figured probably, well, that's actually kind of good for the sport. But then people have just taken it too far. They've taken the gap that they've given, the rope that they've been given is they're just taking too much of it. So you got to reel that back now.
How many times do you think it would take for the drivers to get the message? Couple,
just a couple. That's fine. I mean, it just a couple's fine. But anyway, we were nearly right with Grant Enfinger just out of the blue winning the thing. He probably should have. And, when you look at kind of how the last part of the race played out, it was very disappointing to see Carson wreck Corey Heim. Corey raced him clean. He took his time getting around him. He was methodical to in the way that he passed him. And then the 42 of Carson attempted to hit him once, and he did, and it didn't get him enough out of shape. So then he attempted to hit him again, and then is crying tears that he wrecked him afterwards. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, there's a very fine line between moving someone up the racetrack and then, for instance, like Larson did Blaney, right? He was trying to slow. He knew what was going to happen. He was trying to delay when it was going to happen. So he's trying to either get one more caution. If he can delay that pass for a handful more laps, then that gives him an opportunity to, if the race goes green, then there's less laps in the race. So he's going to finish less, not as far in front of me, and then maybe I'll have a shot later. Or I'll get a caution, stay my track position in front of him, and then you never know what can happen on another restart. So what we saw with the 5 and the 12 in the Cup race, that was executed correctly. That was Larson trying to make an attempt to delay the inevitable with the 12 car that was faster than him and was going to pass him. The 42 just wiped him out, and then was, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that to happen. Oh, yes, you did. You meant to hit him and knock him out of shape. And the difference in the amount of force it takes to knock someone out of shape versus spin them out is a very small margin, like entirely small, very, very small. So he noticed that he didn't get him out of shape enough the first time, so he was trying to do it again you can argue whether he meant to knock him out of the way or wreck him or whatever. It doesn't matter. The result was the same, that he spun the championship leader who had just passed him clean. So it was, obviously not a good look. Tyler Reddick tweeted something. I retweeted it because I believe what he said. Martin Truex made some pointed comments about it. I believe what he said. I'll just agree with what those guys are saying, and that he's got a long way to go for sure. Especially racing on Sunday, he's got a very, very long way to go.
That tweet from Reddick was, "This dumbass will never learn."
Yeah, I mean, he will learn. It's just going to take it appears it's going to take a very, very long time because he doesn't learn very well.
Although we were just singing his praises here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which is ironic.
Yeah, I mean, I think because of the performance that he's had,
right,
winning races and whatnot. He went through definitely a phase in the middle of summer where he wasn't crashing people all the time. It stemmed from, remember Martinsville, he hooked somebody. I mean, we've seen a little bit of this stuff happening in the Cup race. I mentioned it when he wrecked Ty Gibbs for whatever reason last week. And then when I've been around him too, I've just seen him get on some people's nerves. Let's just leave it at that. And so, it just takes time to learn, and you're going to learn that these races are really long, and you got, it's give and take at times of the race. And, again, he is young. He will learn. It just will take, a fair amount of time for him to get there.
Where do you stand on the payback that we saw on track?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so so torn on it. Only because I think what happened to Corey was so wrong. You know, I think in general, what Corey did was wrong. It wasn't wrong except for in that situation. It's the end of the race. You've got Grant's got this thing in the bag. I think it was 3 laps to go or something. Yeah, it altered the race. It obviously altered the championship. I don't know. It's tough for me to be hard on him because I sympathize with him because the guy had it in the bag and he got it taken away from him. You know, it's the head banging part of this sport of like he did everything he was supposed to do correctly, and he ended up crash because someone chose not to race him fairly, and so he gets defined on whether he won a championship because of somebody else's decision, not his. And I don't.
I'm talking about Corey Heim.
Yeah. And so he's pissed off in the moment, right? And he's like, I'm not waiting till next year. Next year, my emotions ain't going to be what they are right now. And so I'm did he mean to bring out a caution? I don't know. But he definitely meant to run him up the racetrack. There's no doubt about that.
Right. It's funny because, this situation may not have turned out the same, but if Corey Heim kept this car on the racetrack and didn't destroy his own truck, he could have had a chance to still win the championship.
Yeah, man.
With the way everything
Yeah, I
played
was
out.
watching how it was going to play out, and he was done. He would have had to pit. He was done. The other two, Ben Rhodes and
if he didn't take the right side off his truck in that caution, is what I'm saying.
yeah, but he was going backwards. Like he wasn't able to keep up with any of those guys anyway. Like he was already the third guy in championship line.
Right. It just the way it turned
Yep.
out. It's like if your truck was on the track, you had a chance.
And this is
Yeah.
his last chance to pay back Carson.
Yeah. That's true too. I didn't think about that. Yeah, because Carson's moving on, right? And
Right.
he's not.
Yeah. I don't know. That just seems like an off
Which
the
that's
track.
backwards, by the way.
What?
Nothing. Just making comments. Yeah. So you had Ben Rhodes. Ben Rhodes is your Truck Series champion. I don't know who saw that coming. I with all due respect to Ben Rhodes, I didn't. He was invisible. He didn't have a whole lot going on this year, but he won the race that it mattered, and he's the champion again.